The theory that the British Secret Service sprang Blake from Wormwood Scrubs seems far-fetched when you think of the political consequences it would have for the Prime Minister and the British government. This theory may fit the sinister picture that some foreign intelligence services have of the perfidious British. It also fits into that world of John le Carré's spy who came in from the cold. But any British Prime Minister involved in kidding the public along on such a huge scale might soon find himself out in the cold.
Wormwood Scrubs from the air, with its chapel-like cell blocks, hardly looks like a tough prison for master spies. George Blake's escape was from the maximum security block on the right, D block. Blake's breakout just shows how modern spies are living up to the image foisted on them in the current spate of spy novels and spy films. The Blake story, in fact, has all the thriller ingredients. James Bond fans will feel that the man in cell D8 was a Russian master spy receiving messages on his cell radio from the KGB. To John le Carré readers, it will be obvious that Blake's escape from the second-floor landing window was not an elaborate Russian plot at all, but a rescue by the British Secret Service of a spy who had been working for us all along.
But traditionalists needn't be disappointed, for when George Blake dropped down this wall to freedom, what should be waiting for him at the bottom but a pot of pink chrysanthemums? Now, all you Agatha Christie fans are asking, what does this clue of the pink chrysanthemums mean? Well, theory one is that the chrysanthemums were waiting for George Blake so he could pick them up and look like a visitor to nearby Hammersmith Hospital. But a man carrying flowers in prison uniform is a bit bizarre even for the district around Wormwood Scrubs. Theory two is that the chrysanthemums mark the spot where the getaway car was to wait for Blake after he'd scaled the wall. One thing's certain in this mystery. After George Blake got over this wall, his problems were only beginning, for he had to get away fast. And the first stage of that journey was in the 1955 Humber Hawk, registration 117 GMX.
As Blake sped off into the dusk of a London Saturday evening, 4 main escape routes out of the country were open to him. Perhaps the most likely was only 30 minutes away from the prison itself, a commercial flight from London Airport. Speed was essential, for Blake had got out during the prisoner's recreation period from 5:30 till 7. Discovery of his escape was certain at 7, but possible at any time since he'd left a ladder dangling on the wall. He might have thought that airlines would take good care of him even if Wormwood Scrubs didn't. Blake could have got to London Airport just after 6, and allowing the necessary 30 minutes for checking in, could have been on a 6:30 flight. His probable objective to get to East Germany, the nearest communist country to Britain. But even if he arrived later, someone else could easily have checked in for him and put him on one of 2 planes to Germany that connected with Berlin. Lufthansa flight 223 to Frankfurt at 6:40 would have been ideal. Blake's getaway car was later traced to a former inmate of Wormwood Scrubs who had extreme left-wing connections in Ireland. Once in the airport, Blake could have been given his ticket for the 6:40 Frankfurt flight, which was 10 minutes late. It would have got him to Berlin by 9:20. Suitable reading matter for the flight was also on hand at the airport. The airport police knew nothing yet of Blake's escape. The big police hunt didn't start at the airport until 7:45, nearly an hour after the Frankfurt plane had left. The only hurdle still left was a passport check. No problem for a trained spy with expertly forged documents. Blake's real worry, if he did take off at 6:50, would be his time in the air. For 2.5 hours, he would be trapped in a plane while news of his escape was arriving in Europe. For the methodical George Blake, that might have seemed too big a gamble. The second escape route open to Blake would be by sea, from the London docks. The Surrey docks, with their timber yards, usually have 7 or 8 communist boats unloading there. On a quiet Saturday afternoon, the journey from Wormwood Scrubs would have taken 30 to 40 minutes. There were 14 communist ships in the Thames the day Blake escaped, but 3 of these were strike-bound and only one, an East German, left London that weekend. The police at least didn't think Blake went out this way, for no thorough search was made. If George Blake had as much trouble as I did getting onto a Russian ship, then he was home and dry. The real snag here for him was not getting to the boat, but leaving. If George Blake did choose one of these boats as his last resting place in Britain, he had another problem to face: the slow 50-mile journey from the London docks to the open sea, and the chance that river police would stop and search the ship. To avoid the police, Blake could have taken a third escape route, taking a small boat to board a communist ship out at sea, but weather hazards and the longer journey to the coast might have ruled out this plan. Elstree is the nearest small private airfield to London, though there are a dozen others within an hour's drive of Wormwood Scrubs. A small plane flight was the last of the escape routes that Blake and his rescuers could have chosen. They would well know that for this plan, the weather was all important. There was heavy rain and poor visibility the night of the escape, and on unlit fields, darkness would have been a problem. But there would have been little problem with departure checks. Elstree Airport wasn't even warned of the escape. There is also no accurate check made to ensure a pilot will actually go to the destination he gives airport control. One Elstree traffic controller said he thought a small plane was one of the better methods of getting out of the country undetected. It's also fast, and the lack of police activity after Blake's escape suggests they thought the bird might already have flown. But how Blake escaped and who sprung him depends on whom he was working for. Was he quite plainly a Russian spy, or as some claim, a British agent all along? Certainly his birth certificate gave him no automatic reason to feel loyal to Britain. His father was a Jewish businessman from Cairo, his mother Dutch. He spent his youth between Cairo and Rotterdam, where he settled in this street just before the war, and changed his name to Blake when his mother remarried. He went to this school, but being a Jew, had to escape to Britain when the Germans invaded Holland. In Britain, he was trained as a spy. Then, in 1950, he was captured by communists in Korea. Was this what turned George Blake into a communist spy? But after this, Blake was surprisingly soon back in business as a British spy, and in 1955 was sent to Berlin. Here, it's claimed, he betrayed 42 British agents to Russia from his flat at 26 Platanenallee. It was this work that finally trapped him. Blake's trial seemed like a simple case of treason ending up in Wormwood Scrubs, but there were some who thought Blake was still a British agent.
The theory that the British Secret Service sprang Blake from Wormwood Scrubs seems far-fetched when you think of the political consequences it would have for the Prime Minister and the British government. Even the coolest occupant of number 10 would think twice before being involved in such a massive deceit, for it would mean not only having fooled the British court that originally sentenced Blake as a traitor, but also duping Parliament and public and setting up an inquiry under Lord Mountbatten into how Blake escaped, all the time knowing that he was sprung in fact by us. This theory may fit the sinister picture that some foreign intelligence services have of the perfidious British. It also fits into that world of John le Carré's spy who came in from the cold. But any British Prime Minister involved in kidding the public along on such a huge scale might soon find himself out in the cold. As usual in spy stories, theories are many but facts few. Somewhere where they perhaps do know the facts is here at the Russian embassy in Kensington. But of course, they're not telling. If there are spy connoisseurs who are still dissatisfied with all these theories, here's another one that's been advanced, that Blake wasn't even in Wormwood Scrubs at all. However, you pay your money and take your choice. Of course, George Blake might not even be out of the country at all. He might be hiding in some foreign embassy. He might even be watching this program here at the Russian embassy.